The message arrived at exactly 6:15 on a Wednesday evening. I was standing in my kitchen preparing dinner when my phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with my oldest son Marcus's name. Before we proceed, thank you for watching Mama's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you are watching from in the comment section. Family meeting. Tomorrow night. 7:30. Riverside Grill private room. Be there. No hello. No how are you mom. Just a command. Like I was an employee being summoned to a meeting instead of the woman who raised him for 38 years. I stood there holding my phone reading those words over and over. Something felt wrong. Marcus never called family meetings. In fact, Marcus barely called me at all these days unless he needed something. I'm 70 years old and I have learned to trust my gut. When something feels off, it usually is. That text message made every alarm bell in my head start ringing. Let me tell you who I am before we go any further. My name is Dorothy Mills and I spent 22 years in the United States Army. I started as a supply clerk and worked my way up to logistics coordinator. I managed inventory worth millions of dollars. I made sure soldiers had what they needed when they needed it. I learned how to spot problems before they became disasters. After I retired from the Army, I came home to Chicago and started over. I was 43 years old with some savings and a head full of knowledge about organization and systems. I bought my first laundromat in a run-down neighborhood on the South Side. Everyone said I was crazy. A woman alone buying a failing business in a rough area. But I saw what they did not see. I saw apartment buildings going up 3 blocks away. I saw a bus stop right outside. I saw families who needed clean clothes no matter what the economy was doing. I fixed that laundromat one broken machine at a time. I scrubbed floors until my knees ached. I learned every customer's name. Within 5 years, I owned 3 laundromats. Within 10 years, I owned 5. I bought a small house with a garden. Paid off every debt. I built something solid. I raised 2 sons by myself after my husband died when the boys were young. Marcus was 12 and Leonard was 9 when their father had a heart attack. One day he was coaching Marcus's baseball team and the next day he was gone. I grieved but I could not stop. I had 2 boys depending on me. I worked double shifts. I went to every school event I could. I taught them both how to work hard and save money and treat people with respect. Marcus was always the ambitious one. Always wanting more. Always looking at what other people had and feeling like he deserved it too. He went to college and got a business degree. He married a woman named Vanessa who grew up with money. They had 3 children and a big house in the suburbs. Leonard was different, quieter. He became a high school teacher. He married his college sweetheart Rachel and they had 2 kids. They lived modestly and seemed happy. I loved both my sons equally, but I will admit that over the years Marcus started to make me uncomfortable. He talked about money constantly. He asked questions about my properties and my bank accounts. He made comments about how I was getting older and should start thinking about the future. After I turned 65, the questions got more frequent. Marcus would stop by and casually mention estate planning. He would bring articles about elderly people getting scammed. He would suggest I add him to my bank accounts just in case something happened. I always said no. Politely but firmly. I told him I had everything handled. That I had a will and accounts set up properly. That I was not planning on dying anytime soon. But then something happened 6 months ago that changed everything. Fainted. It was a hot July afternoon and I was at my main laundromat moving boxes of detergent from the storage room. The air conditioning was broken and the heat was overwhelming. 1 minute I was carrying a box and the next minute the room was spinning. I woke up on the floor with my manager Rosa kneeling beside me calling for an ambulance. I tried to tell her I was fine but the paramedics insisted on taking me to the hospital. The doctors said I was severely dehydrated. They lectured me about working too hard at my age. They kept me overnight for observation and sent me home with instructions to rest and drink more water. It was not a big deal. Just an old woman who forgot to drink enough water on a hot day. But Marcus acted like I had suffered a major medical crisis. He showed up at the hospital within an hour. He stood at the foot of my bed with his arms crossed and this look on his face that I could not quite read. concern mixed with something else. Something that made my stomach tighten. What if this had been worse, Mom, he said. What if you had hit your head? What if Rosa had not been there? I am fine, I told him. It was just dehydration. But it could have been worse, he insisted. You are 70 years old running 5 businesses by yourself. You need to start thinking about what happens if something serious goes wrong. Leonard was there too, sitting quietly in the chair beside my bed. He looked uncomfortable with the way Marcus was talking. She just woke up, Marcus, Leonard said. Maybe we can talk about this later. Marcus ignored him. I'm just saying, Mom, you need to get your affairs in order. You need a real plan. If something happens to you and everything is tied up in probate, it will be a nightmare for everyone. That was the beginning. Over the next few months, Marcus brought up planning constantly. He suggested I meet with a financial advisor he knew. He talked about the importance of having someone with legal authority to handle my affairs if I became unable to. Every conversation felt like pressure. Like he was slowly tightening a rope around me. Then came the text message. The family meeting. I stared at my phone for a long time after reading Marcus's message. Then I did something I had been thinking about for weeks. Called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Chin. I had met her years ago when I had a contract dispute with a vendor. She was smart and direct and did not waste time. I trusted her. Patricia, I said when she answered. I need help. We met the next morning at her office. I told her everything. The fainting incident. Marcus's constant pressure. The way he talked about me like I was already incapable. The text message demanding I come to a family meeting. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said something that made my blood run cold. Dorothy, it sounds like your son is planning to petition for guardianship. What does that mean? I asked. It means he could go to court and argue that you are not capable of managing your own affairs. If a judge agrees, he could be appointed as your legal guardian. He would control your money, your property, everything. You would have almost no rights. My hands started shaking. But I am fine. I run 5 businesses. Pay my bills. I am not confused or incapable. I know, Patricia said. But if he can build a case, if he can get doctors or family members to say you are declining, if he can create doubt, then a judge might side with him. Especially after a medical event like fainting. Can he do that? I asked. Can he really take everything away from me? He can try, Patricia said. And depending on how he frames it, depending on what kind of evidence he presents, he might succeed. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I thought about the fainting incident. About how Marcus had acted so concerned. About all his questions and suggestions. Had he been building a case this whole time? What do? I asked. We fight back, Patricia said. We make sure your affairs are ironclad. We document that you are perfectly capable. And we go to this family meeting prepared. She pulled out a legal pad and started writing. First, we update your will with very specific instructions. Second, we set up a trust that protects your assets. Third, we name an independent fiduciary, someone who is not family, to manage things if you ever do become incapacitated. Can I do that? I asked. Can I cut Marcus out? You can structure things however you want, Patricia said. It is your estate. But we need to do it right, and we need to do it now. We spent 3 hours going through every detail. My properties. My bank accounts. My wishes for how things should be divided. Patricia explained every document in plain language, so I understood exactly what I was signing. When we finished, she pulled out a small device from her desk drawer. It was a digital voice recorder smaller than my phone. Take this, she said. If Marcus tries to pressure you at this meeting, if he makes threats or says anything concerning, I want you to record it. Illinois is a one-party consent state, which means you can legally record conversations you are part of without telling the other person. Why would I need to record my own son? I asked. Because if he is planning what I think he is planning, Patricia said, you will need evidence. You will need proof of what he says and does. I took the recorder and slipped it into my purse. It felt heavy, like a weapon I did not want to carry. The next evening I drove to Riverside Grill with my heart pounding. The restaurant was nice. The kind of place Marcus liked. The kind with cloth napkins and expensive steaks. I arrived exactly on time. The hostess smiled and led me through the main dining room toward the back. We walked down a quiet hallway and stopped in front of a door marked private dining. She opened it and I stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was that this was not a family dinner. There were no menus, no plates, no food at all. Just a long polished table with chairs and a stack of papers in the center. Marcus was there wearing a suit like he was at a business meeting. His wife Vanessa sat beside him wearing a tight smile. On the other side of the table sat two people I had never met. A man in an expensive suit with perfectly combed hair and a woman with a briefcase. At the far end of the table looking miserable was Leonard. My younger son would not meet my eyes. Mom, Marcus said, standing up. Thanks for coming. Please sit down. He gestured to a chair directly across from the strangers. I stayed standing. What is this? I asked. Your text said family meeting. It is, Marcus said. We are all family here. Well, except for Richard and Ms. Stevens, but they are here to help. The man in the suit extended his hand across the table. Richard Paulson, he said smoothly. I am an estate planning attorney. I help families navigate difficult transitions. I did not shake his hand. What kind of transition? I asked. Marcus jumped in. Mom, we are worried about you. After what happened at the laundromat after you fainted, we realized we need to get serious about planning for the future. I'm fine, I said. Are you? Vanessa asked. Her voice had an edge to it. Because fainting and ending up in the hospital does not sound fine to me. It was dehydration, I said. The doctors said so. This time, Marcus said. But what about next time? What if next time you fall and break a hip? What if you have a stroke? What if something happens and you cannot make decisions anymore? Then my will and my plans take effect, I said. Richard, the attorney, cleared his throat. Mrs. Mills, with all due respect, what your son is trying to say is that waiting until something catastrophic happens is not good planning. It is better to put protections in place now while you are still able to make clear decisions. The word still able hung in the air like smoke. Marcus pushed the stack of papers toward me. We had Richard draw up some documents. Simple stuff. It just puts me in charge of managing your properties and accounts. You would still benefit from everything. I would just handle the day-to-day decisions. I looked down at the papers. The top page had bold letters that said power of attorney and transfer of assets. You want me to sign over my properties? I said slowly. Not sign them over, Marcus said quickly. Just give me authority to manage them. To make decisions. You are 70, Mom. You should not be dealing with broken washing machines and tenant complaints anymore. Let me handle it. What about Leonard? I asked. Leonard does not have the experience, Marcus said dismissively. He is a teacher. He does not understand business or real estate. I have been managing properties for years. I know what I am doing. I looked at Leonard. He was staring at the table, his jaw clenched tight. Did you know about this? I asked him. He looked up and I saw anger in his eyes. Marcus called me 2 days ago and told me to come to a family meeting. He did not tell me it was this. Because you would have warned her, Vanessa snapped. You have always been soft. Always taking her side. There are no sides here, Marcus said, though his voice had an edge now. We are family. We are trying to help Mom before she makes mistakes she cannot fix. What mistakes? I asked. Marcus leaned forward. You are getting older. People your age start to slip. They forget things. They make bad decisions. They get confused. I am not confused, I said firmly. Not yet, Marcus said. But what if you do start to decline? What if you start giving money away to scammers? What if you sell a property for way less than it is worth because someone takes advantage of you? If I have legal authority, I can protect you from yourself. Protect me from myself. The words made my skin crawl. Richard slid a pen toward me. If you sign these documents, everything stays in your name. You just give Marcus the authority to act on your behalf. It is a safety net. And if I do not want to sign? I asked. The room went very quiet. Marcus looked at Vanessa. Vanessa looked at Richard. Leonard shifted in his chair. Then Marcus's expression changed. The fake concern dropped away, and what I saw underneath made my stomach turn. Anger. Cold calculation. Then we have a problem, Marcus said slowly. Because if you refuse to plan responsibly, if you refuse to protect yourself, then we have to assume you are not thinking clearly. Are you threatening me? I asked. I am protecting this family, Marcus said, his voice rising. You built something. You have properties and businesses worth over $2 million. If you die without proper planning, do you know what happens? Probate, taxes, everything gets tied up for years. Everything we should inherit gets eaten up by lawyers and the government. So this is about your inheritance, I said. It is about our family's future, Marcus shot back. About making sure your grandchildren have something. About not letting everything you worked for disappear because you are too stubborn to face reality. I felt my hand move to my purse. My fingers found the voice recorder Patricia had given me. I pressed the button to start recording. Let me be very clear, Marcus, I said. I am not signing anything tonight. His face went red. You are making a mistake. That is my choice to make. Not if you are not capable of making good choices, Vanessa said sharply. Not if you are putting everything at risk. I am 70 years old, I said, my voice steady. I am not senile. I am not confused. I run 5 successful businesses. Pay my bills on time. Have 0 debt. What exactly makes you think I am incapable? Richard cleared his throat. Mrs. Mills, in situations like this, it is not uncommon for family members to seek a medical evaluation. To establish baseline cognitive function. Are you saying you want to have me declared incompetent? I asked. Marcus stood up. If that is what it takes to protect you from yourself, then yes. The room felt too small. Too hot. I looked at Leonard. Did you know he was planning this? I asked. Leonard shook his head. Well, I swear, Mom, I did not know. He is lying, Vanessa said. He knew. We discussed it. Shut up, Vanessa, Marcus hissed. But it was too late. The mask had slipped completely. Could see it now. This was not about protection or planning. This was about control. About taking what I had built before I could decide what to do with it myself. I stood up slowly. My hand was still in my purse, gripping the recorder. Let me tell you all something, I said. I spent 22 years in the army. I managed supply chains worth millions. I built 5 businesses from nothing. I raised 2 sons by myself after their father died. I have survived things you cannot imagine. I looked directly at Marcus. And you think you can walk me into a room with a lawyer I have never met and scare me into handing over everything I worked for? Mom, you are not thinking straight, Marcus said. No, I said. I am thinking very straight. Probably straighter than I have thought in months. You want to know what I think? I think you have been planning this since the day I fainted. I think you saw an opportunity and you decided to use it. That is ridiculous, Marcus said, but his voice wavered. Is it? I asked. Then explain why you called Leonard and told him this was just a family meeting. Explain why you brought a lawyer I have never met. Explain why these papers are already drawn up ready to sign. Because someone has to take responsibility, Vanessa shouted. Someone has to think about the future. I walked toward the door. When I reached it, I turned back. You want to know about the future, I said. Here is what is going to happen. I am leaving this restaurant. I am going to make sure everything I own is protected in ways you cannot touch. And if you try to petition for guardianship, if you try to have me declared incompetent, if you try to take what is mine in any way, I will fight you with every resource I have. Marcus's face twisted. You would choose lawyers over your own son. You chose lawyers first, I said. You brought them to ambush me. So yes, I will absolutely get my own lawyers to protect myself from you. I opened the door and walked out. Behind me I heard Marcus shouting. Heard Vanessa saying something sharp. Heard Leonard calling my name. But I kept walking. Through the quiet hallway. Through the dining room where families were eating and laughing. Out into the parking lot where the night air was cool and clean. I sat in my car for 10 minutes with my hands shaking. Then I pulled out my phone and called Patricia. I need you, I said when she answered. I need you right now. The next morning I was back in Patricia's office. She listened to the entire recording twice. Her expression got harder with each listen. When it finished, she set down her headphones and looked at me. Dorothy, this is attempted financial exploitation. What Marcus is describing, threatening to have you declared incompetent unless you sign over authority, is illegal. It is considered undue influence, and in some cases it can be prosecuted as elder abuse. Elder abuse. The words hit me like a punch. He is my son, I said weakly. That does not matter, Patricia said firmly. In fact, it makes it worse. The law takes financial abuse by family members very seriously. Marcus has a duty of care toward you. Threatening you violating that duty. What do, I asked. We go on offense, Patricia said. We do not wait for him to file anything. We file first. He pulled out a folder. I have already started the paperwork. We are going to petition the court for a protective order. We will present the recording and ask the judge to prohibit Marcus from accessing your financial information or representing himself as your agent in any way. Will that work, I asked. Patricia nodded. Given what is on that recording, yes. A judge will see this for what it is. A son trying to strong-arm his mother into signing away her rights. What happens to Marcus, I asked. That depends, Patricia said. If he accepts the protective order and backs off, then nothing. But if he violates it, if he continues to harass you or tries to access your accounts, then he could face criminal charges. Criminal charges. My own son. I must have looked sick because Patricia reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. I know this is hard, she said. But you did the right thing. You protected yourself. That is not something to feel guilty about. Over the next 3 weeks, Patricia and I worked non-stop. We restructured everything. Created an LLC for my properties. Set up a trust with an independent trustee. Updated my will with specific detailed instructions about who gets what and why. Leonard came to several of the meetings. He was quiet but supportive. He told me Marcus had called him screaming. Had accused him of turning me against the family. I am not turned against anyone, I told Leonard. I am just protecting what is mine. I know, Mom, Leonard said. You are doing the right thing. The court date arrived on a cold October morning. I wore my best suit and sat beside Patricia in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and anxiety. Marcus was there with his own lawyer. He would not look at me. Vanessa sat in the gallery, her arms crossed and her face hard. The judge was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She reviewed the paperwork in silence, then listened to portions of the recording. When Marcus's voice filled the courtroom saying, if that is what it takes to protect you from yourself, then yes, the judge's expression did not change, but I saw her make a note. After hearing both sides, she removed her glasses and spoke directly to Marcus. Mr. Mills, I am going to be very clear with you. What I heard on that recording is deeply troubling. You attempted to coerce your mother into signing over financial authority by threatening to have her declared incompetent. That is not protecting someone. That is exploiting them. But Your Honor, Marcus started. The judge held up her hand. I am granting the protective order. You are prohibited from accessing your mother's financial accounts. You cannot represent yourself as her agent. You cannot contact her regarding financial matters. Any violation of this order will result in contempt charges and possible criminal prosecution. She looked at me. Mrs. Mills, you have every right to manage your own affairs. If at some point in the future you genuinely need help, there are proper legal channels for that. But that decision will be made by medical professionals and the court, not by a son who stands to benefit from controlling your assets. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Patricia turned to me. How do you feel, she asked. Like I just won a battle, I said. But lost something else. That something else was my relationship with Marcus. After the court order, he disappeared completely. No calls. No visits. No birthday card. It was like I had ceased to exist to him. Vanessa sent me a single text message. You chose money over your own son. I hope it was worth it. I did not respond. What could I say? I did not choose money. I chose protecting myself from someone who tried to steal from me. Leonard stepped up in ways I never expected. He started coming by every week. He helped me at the laundromats when I needed an extra hand. He brought his kids over and we would cook dinner together. One evening about 6 months after the court case, Leonard and I were sitting on my back porch drinking tea. The sun was setting and the air was finally cooling down after a hot summer day. Mom, he said quietly. Can I ask you something? Course, I said. Do you regret it? Fighting Marcus. Taking him to court. I thought about that for a long time. I thought about Marcus as a little boy. About teaching him to ride a bike. About his high school graduation. About the moment in the hospital when I thought he was genuinely worried about me. Then I thought about his voice in that restaurant. About the threats. About the way he tried to make me doubt my own mind. No, I said finally. I do not regret protecting myself. I regret that I had to. I regret that my own son saw me as something to exploit instead of someone to respect. But fighting back. Well, I do not regret that. Leonard nodded. Good, he said. Because you taught us to stand up for ourselves. You taught us to work hard and not let anyone take advantage of us. Marcus forgot those lessons. But I did not. I squeezed his hand. You are a good son, I said. I learned from the best, he replied. It has been 2 years now since that night at Riverside Grill. 2 years since I walked out of that private dining room and decided to fight back. My life is smaller in some ways. I do not have Marcus or his children in it anymore. There are no Christmas mornings with all my grandkids. No big family dinners. That loss sits heavy on my heart some days. But my life is also freer. I do not look over my shoulder anymore. I do not worry about someone trying to manipulate me or take what I built. I make my own decisions about my own property. I still run my laundromats. I am 72 now, and yes, some days my knees hurt and I get tired faster than I used to. But I am not incapable. I am not confused. I am just older. Leonard and Rachel are in my will. So are their children. I set up education trusts for all my grandchildren, including Marcus's kids. They will get that money when they turn 25, no matter what their father does. I left Marcus something too. Not as much as he would have gotten if he had been patient and kind. But enough. Enough to show that I did not cut him out in pure anger. Just enough to show consequences. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about that night. If he regrets trying to strong-arm me. If he ever feels ashamed of what he did. But mostly I do not think about Marcus at all anymore. I think about the life I built. About the businesses I created from nothing. About the grandson who told me last week that he wants to be a teacher like his dad. About the smell of fresh laundry and the sound of washing machines and the satisfaction of balancing the books at the end of a good week. I think about the fact that I am 72 years old and I still get to make my own choices. That nobody controls me. That I fought for my right to live my life on my terms and I won. If you are watching this or listening to this, I want you to remember something. Getting older does not mean giving up control. Being someone's mother or father or grandparent does not mean you owe them your autonomy. If someone tries to take from you, if someone uses love as a weapon, if someone threatens you and calls it protection, you have every right to fight back. I was a logistics coordinator in the Army. I learned how to see the whole picture, how to plan 3 steps ahead, how to know when something does not add up. That night at the restaurant, Marcus thought he had me cornered. He thought 6 people in a room with papers already drawn up would be enough to break me. But he forgot something important. He forgot that I have been counting my whole life. Counting supplies. Counting inventory. Counting threats. He walked in with numbers on his side. But I walked in with something stronger. I walked in with preparation. With clarity. With the absolute certainty that what I built was mine and I was not handing it over to anyone who demanded it. In the end, the count that mattered was not how many people were in that room. It was how many people were standing up for what was right. And on that count I had enough. Had me. 3 months after the court order, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. I almost did not answer it. But something made me pick up. Hello, I said cautiously. Mrs. Mills. The voice was young and female. My name is Stephanie. I am Marcus's oldest daughter. Your granddaughter. My heart stopped. Stephanie. She was 15 now. I had not heard her voice in almost a year. Stephanie, I said softly. How are you, sweetheart? There was a long pause. Then I am confused, Grandma. Dad told us you did not want to see us anymore. He said you chose money over family. But that does not sound like you. So I found your number and I wanted to call. Tears filled my eyes. Baby, I said. That is not what happened. Not at all. Then what did happen, she asked. Because Mom and Dad will not really explain it. They just say you betrayed us. I took a deep breath. Your father wanted me to sign papers that would have given him control of everything I own. My businesses, my house, all of it. He brought me to a restaurant and tried to pressure me into signing. When I said no, he threatened me. So I had to protect myself legally. Stephanie was quiet for a moment. He tried to take your businesses. Yes, I said. The ones you built yourself. The ones you worked your whole life for. Another pause. That is messed up, Grandma. I let out a surprised laugh through my tears. Yes, honey. It is messed up. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry he did that. And I am sorry I have not seen you. Miss you. I miss you too, sweetheart, I said. So much. Can I come visit you, she asked. Like maybe on Saturday. Can take the bus. I would love that, I told her. I would absolutely love that. Stephanie started visiting every other weekend. She would help me at the laundromat folding towels and restocking supplies. We would talk about school and boys and her dreams of becoming a veterinarian. She never told Marcus where she was going. She told him she was at a friend's house. It broke my heart that she had to lie, but I understood. She was protecting herself too. One Saturday afternoon we were sitting in my kitchen making cookies when she said something that shook me. Grandma, can I tell you something? Course, I said. Dad talks about you sometimes. She mixed the cookie dough slowly, not looking at me. When he thinks we are not listening, he tells Mom he made a mistake. That he should have just been patient. That he got greedy. I stopped what I was doing. He said that. Stephanie looked up at me. Think he misses you. But he is too proud to admit he was wrong. I thought about that for a long time. Part of me wanted to reach out. To extend an olive branch. To try to rebuild something. But another part of me remembered his voice in that restaurant. Remembered the threats. Remembered how easily he was willing to destroy me to get what he wanted. Maybe someday, I told Stephanie. But not yet. Not until he can admit what he did and apologize. Really apologize. She nodded. That makes sense. The holidays came and went. Leonard and Rachel hosted Thanksgiving and Christmas at their house. It felt strange to celebrate without Marcus and his family. Like there was a hole at the table. But Stephanie showed up on Christmas morning. She had taken 2 buses to get there. She handed me a gift wrapped in slightly crooked paper. I made this in art class, she said. I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a framed drawing. It showed a woman standing in front of a laundromat. The woman had gray hair and was smiling. At the bottom, Stephanie had written, "The strongest woman I know." I cried right there in Leonard's living room. Happy tears this time. As winter turned to spring, I started thinking about the future differently. Not with fear or worry, but with intention. I was 72 years old. I would not live forever. I needed to make sure everything was set up, not just legally but emotionally. I sat down with Leonard one evening and had a conversation I had been avoiding. When I die, I said, I want you to know exactly what I want. Mom, Leonard said, uncomfortable. You do not need to talk about this. Yes, I do, I said firmly. Listen to me. Everything is in my will. You and your family will be fine. The grandkids all have education trusts. But there is something else I want you to know. What is it, he asked. I want you to reach out to Marcus after I am gone. I want you to tell him I forgave him. Leonard looked shocked. Did you? I am working on it, I said. I am not there yet. But I will be. And I do not want him carrying guilt after I am gone. I want him to know that I understood why he did what he did. I do not agree with it. I will never agree with it. But I understand. Leonard's eyes filled with tears. You are a better person than me, Mom. I do not know if I could forgive that. You would, I said. Because holding on to anger only hurts you. It does not hurt the person you are angry at. Just makes you bitter. I started writing letters. One to each of my grandchildren, including Marcus's younger 2, who I had not seen in 2 years. I wrote about my life. About the lessons I learned. About the importance of standing up for yourself even when it is hard. I wrote a letter to Leonard thanking him for being loyal and true. For choosing honesty over money. And I wrote a letter to Marcus. It was the hardest one to write. I went through 7 drafts before I got it right. Marcus, I wrote. By the time you read this, I will be gone. I want you to know that I forgive you for what you tried to do. I do not understand it. I will probably never understand how you could look at me and see something to take instead of someone to love. But I forgive you because holding on to anger would poison the rest of my life. I hope you learn from this. I hope you teach your children to value people over money. I hope you find peace with what happened. You were a good boy once. I choose to remember that boy instead of the man who threatened me in that restaurant. Love always. I sealed the letter and gave it to Patricia to put with my will. She would make sure Marcus got it when the time came. But that time was not yet. I had more living to do. I started a small scholarship program for women over 60 who wanted to start their own businesses. Every year I gave away $5,000 to someone with a dream and a plan. The first recipient was a 63-year-old woman named Carol who wanted to open a bakery. She reminded me of myself at that age. Determined, dared, willing to work harder than anyone else. I went to the grand opening of her bakery. Watched her cut the ribbon with tears in her eyes. Watched her hug her grandkids and take orders from her first customers. That moment made everything worth it. Every sacrifice, every hard decision, every broken relationship, because I was able to help someone else build their dream. On my 73rd birthday, Leonard threw me a party at his house. Nothing fancy, just family and a few close friends. Stephanie was there. So were Leonard's kids. So was Rosa from my laundromat and Patricia, my attorney, who had become a good friend. As I looked around the backyard at the people who loved me and supported me, I realized something important. Family is not always the people you are related to by blood. Sometimes family is the people who show up for you, who stand beside you when things get hard, who celebrate your victories and mourn your losses. Marcus was my son. That would never change. But he was not my family anymore. Not in the way that mattered. Leonard made a toast. He raised his glass and said to Mom, "The toughest woman I know. The woman who taught me that standing up for yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. I love you, Mom." Everyone raised their glasses. To Dorothy they said. I felt full in a way I had not felt in years. Not full of food or wine, but full of gratitude. Full of purpose. Full of the knowledge that I had made the right choices even when they hurt. That night after everyone left, I sat on my back porch looking at the stars. The air was warm and sweet. Somewhere in the distance I could hear music playing. I thought about that text message from Marcus 2 years ago. The one that started everything. Family meeting. Be there. I thought about walking into that restaurant not knowing what was waiting for me. About hearing my son threaten to have me declared incompetent. About the moment I decided to fight back. People ask me sometimes if I would do anything differently. If I would have tried harder to work things out with Marcus. If there was something I could have said that would have changed his mind. The answer is no. Because Marcus did not want a conversation. He wanted compliance. He wanted me to hand over everything I worked for without question. And when I refused, he tried to destroy me. You cannot negotiate with someone who sees you as an obstacle instead of a person. You cannot reason with someone who values money more than relationships. All you can do is protect yourself and hope they learn from the consequences. I have learned so much in my 73 years. I learned that hard work pays off. That building something from nothing is possible if you are willing to sacrifice. That loyalty matters. That honesty matters. But the most important lesson I learned came in that restaurant when I was 70 years old and my son tried to take everything from me. I learned that protecting yourself is not selfish. That setting boundaries is not cruel. That saying no to someone you love is sometimes the most loving thing you can do. Because if I had signed those papers, if I had given in to the pressure, I would have lost more than my businesses. I would have lost my dignity, my autonomy, my sense of self. And at 73 years old, those things are more valuable than any amount of money. I still run my laundromats. I go in 3 days a week to check on things. Talk to my employees. To make sure everything is running smoothly. The other days I spend with Leonard and his family. With Stephanie when she can sneak away. With friends I have made over the years. I take art classes at the community center. I volunteer at the library. I live my life on my terms. And that freedom, that ability to wake up every morning and make my own choices is worth everything I went through. Last week I got a letter in the mail. The return address was Marcus's house. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. The handwriting was messy, like it had been written quickly. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not deserve it. But I need you to know that I am sorry. I was wrong. I let greed cloud my judgment, and I hurt you in ways I can never take back. I am not asking for a relationship. I am not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I know what I did was wrong. I'm sorry, Marcus. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Patricia called me that afternoon about something unrelated. When we finished talking about business, she asked how I was doing. Good, I said. Really good, actually. You sound good, she said. Something happened. I got a letter from Marcus, I told her. An apology. Are you going to respond, she asked. I do not know yet, I said. Maybe. Eventually. But not today. Today I am just going to sit with it. Let it be enough that he finally said what he should have said 2 years ago. After I hung up, I made myself a cup of tea and sat on my back porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. It was beautiful. I thought about forgiveness. About whether I was ready to let go of the hurt Marcus had caused. About whether an apology in a letter was enough to rebuild trust. I did not have the answers yet. Maybe I would never have the answers. But I had something better. I had peace. Peace with my decisions. Peace with the life I had built. Peace with the knowledge that I had protected myself when it mattered most. And that peace was something no one could take from me. As I sat there watching the sun disappear below the horizon, I made a decision. Tomorrow I would write Marcus back. Not to reconcile completely. Not to pretend everything was fine. But to acknowledge his apology. To tell him I was working on forgiveness. To leave the door open just a crack. Because at 73 years old I had learned that holding grudges only weighs you down. That forgiveness is not about letting someone off the hook. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of anger. I would forgive Marcus eventually. Not because he deserved it, but because I deserved peace. But forgiveness did not mean forgetting. It did not mean giving him another chance to hurt me. It just meant releasing the anger and moving forward with my life. And my life was good. Better than I had imagined it would be at this age. I had my health. I had my businesses. I had Leonard and his family. I had Stephanie's secret visits. I had friends and purpose, and the satisfaction of knowing I had stood up for myself when it mattered most. 6 months later I got another letter from Marcus. This one was longer. He told me about his life. About his struggles. About how trying to take my businesses had cost him in ways he did not expect. Vanessa had left him. She had filed for divorce, saying she could not be married to someone who would do what he did. His kids were angry with him. They had found out the truth. Stephanie had told them. Now his 2 younger children barely spoke to him. He had lost his job after his employer found out about the court case. Apparently threatening your elderly mother does not look good when you work in financial services. He was living in a small apartment, working as a car salesman, trying to rebuild his life. I am not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me, he wrote. I am telling you this because I want you to know that I understand now. I understand what I almost took from you. I understand the value of what you built. And I understand that some mistakes have consequences you cannot undo. I put the letter down and cried. Not because I felt sorry for Marcus. But because I realized that he had finally learned the lesson I had been trying to teach him his whole life. That actions have consequences. That you cannot take shortcuts to success. That real wealth is not measured in dollars but in relationships and integrity and self-respect. I wrote him back. I told him I was proud of him for owning his mistakes. I told him the road to rebuilding would be long, but it was possible. I told him I was working on forgiveness and that maybe someday we could have a relationship again. But it would have to be built slowly. With trust earned over time. Not demanded or assumed. He wrote back a week later. Thank you, he said. I do not deserve your grace, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to earn it. It has been a year since that first apology letter. Marcus and I exchange emails now. Short ones. Dates about life. Nothing deep yet. We are not ready for that. But we are talking. And that is something. Stephanie does not have to hide her visits anymore. She comes over openly now. Sometimes she brings her younger siblings. We bake cookies and watch movies and talk about their dreams. I am 74 years old now. My knees hurt more than they used to. I get tired earlier in the day. I have started thinking about selling one or two of the laundromats. Not because I have to, but because I am ready to slow down. Leonard will take over the remaining businesses when I am gone. He knows how to run them. He understands the customers. He shares my values. Everything is documented. Everything is legal. Everything is protected. And most importantly, everything is mine until I decide otherwise. That is the point of this whole story. That is what I want you to understand if you are watching this. You do not owe anyone access to what you built. Not your children. Not your spouse. Not anyone. What you create with your own hands and your own mind and your own sweat belongs to you. If someone tries to take it through threats or manipulation or legal tricks, you have every right to fight back. You are not being selfish. You are not being cruel. You are protecting what is yours. I was 70 years old when my son tried to steal from me. I could have given in. I could have believed him when he said I was confused or incapable or needed protection. But I knew the truth. I knew I was still sharp, still capable, still in control of my own mind. So I fought back. And I won. Not just in court. I won in life. Kept my businesses. Kept my dignity. I kept my freedom to make my own choices. And now at 74 I am living proof that age does not equal helplessness. That getting older does not mean giving up control. That you can stand up to anyone, even your own child, if they try to take what is yours. So if you are out there and someone is pressuring you to sign something you do not understand, if someone is making you doubt your own mind, if someone is using your age or your health or your love for them as a weapon, take a breath and fight back. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Record conversations if you need to. Protect yourself first. Worry about hurt feelings later. Because your life, your money, your property, your choices belong to you. And no one has the right to take them away, no matter how much they claim to love you. I learned that lesson in a restaurant 2 years ago when my son walked me into a trap. I learned it again in a courtroom when a judge ruled in my favor. And I am still learning it every day as I navigate this complicated relationship with Marcus. As I set boundaries and hold firm to them even when it hurts. This is my story. The story of a 74-year-old woman who refused to be a victim. Who fought back when her own son tried to exploit her. Who won not just a legal battle but the right to live her life on her own terms. I hope my story helps someone out there. Someone who is facing something similar. Someone who needs to hear that it is okay to protect yourself. That you are not alone. That fighting back does not make you a bad person. Makes you strong. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me share this. And remember, you are stronger than you think. Braver than you believe. And worthy of protecting what is yours.